The clink of silverware stopped midair. My father's voice sliced through the chatter like a blade. "You have 2 days to get your things out," he said. My hands went numb around my water glass. The house I'd saved from foreclosure, the walls I'd painted, the floors I'd laid with my own hands, gone. Given to my brother. In that moment, surrounded by the smell of roast chicken and betrayal, my world tilted. If you've ever been underestimated or taken advantage of, even by your own family, you're going to feel this story. Hit like, subscribe, and settle in. This is how I lost everything and how I took it all back. I'm Whitney, 30 years old, an interior designer living in Missoula, Montana. For years, my life revolved around one address, my parents' big but aging farmhouse on the edge of town. When Dad lost his job 3 years ago and the bank threatened foreclosure, I was the one who emptied my savings to keep the roof over their heads. $60,000. Every dime I had earned from late nights drafting blueprints and staining floors for other people's homes. I didn't just write a check. I poured my soul into that place. Weekends meant sanding baseboards, hanging drywall, refinishing the kitchen cabinets until my fingers cracked from varnish. I bought new appliances on my credit card. I replaced the leaky roof with my own contractors. When friends asked why I worked so hard on a house I didn't own, I'd laugh and say, "It's family. This is what we do." And always there was Colt, my older brother, my parents' golden boy. While I was crawling across dusty floorboards, he was in New York chasing opportunities that never panned out. Failed startups, art collectives, parties. He'd breeze into town twice a year with expensive shoes and no plan, soaking up our parents' pride like sunlight. I'd tell myself it didn't matter. I was building a home, a future. That's why the family dinner blindsided me. It was a Sunday evening in late September. The air smelled of wood smoke, and the leaves outside were gold. Mom had set the table with her good china. I thought we were gathering to celebrate Dad's small consulting gig, or maybe Colt's latest project. Instead, Dad cleared his throat and looked at me with a strange, almost rehearsed expression. "You've done a lot for this house, but Colt's moving back. He's going to start over here, and we've decided the house will be his." I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "What do you mean, the house will be his?" "It's our decision," Mom said quickly, eyes sliding away from mine. "You'll have to get your things out. We're giving you 2 days." 2 days. 48 hours to uproot my entire life from the place I'd saved. My fork clattered against my plate. I paid for this house. I saved it from foreclosure. Dad's jaw tightened. "We're grateful, but Colt needs a fresh start. You're single, you'll be fine on your own." Colt smirked from across the table, twirling his wine glass. "It's not personal, Whit. You're good at landing on your feet." Inside me, something cracked. My stomach churned, my palms were slick. All the nights of labor, the sacrifices, the hope, erased. In their eyes, I was disposable. I don't remember leaving the table, only the cool night air hitting my face as I stumbled to my car. The porch light cast long shadows, and behind me, the voices resumed, muffled through the walls I'd painted myself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling of my childhood bedroom, heart hammering, rage and disbelief tangling like barbed wire. Memories surfaced. Dad calling me his rock, Mom crying with relief when I handed her the check, Colt laughing about a loan he needed. Was this their plan all along? By dawn, my eyes burned from tears. I paced the kitchen, clutching my coffee mug like a lifeline. My phone buzzed. Lindsay, my best friend since college, now a lawyer. "You sound awful," she said when I answered. "They're kicking me out. They're giving Colt the house." My voice cracked. There was a pause. "Whit, I told you to protect yourself legally. Did you ever put your name on the deed?" "No, it's their house. I just paid the mortgage and repairs." Another pause. Longer. "Something's off. Call the bank, See what's on record. If they took out any loans, you need to know." Her tone was steady, but my stomach twisted. Loans? Why would there be loans? I'd already paid everything off. I scribbled the bank's number with shaking hands. The smell of cold coffee filled the kitchen. When Finn, the bank officer, finally called back, his words made my knees go weak. "Whitney, according to our files, you're a co-signer on a $60,000 home equity loan taken last year. Payments are overdue." My mouth went dry. "That's impossible. I never signed any loan." "I can email the documents." Minutes later, I stared at the PDF on my laptop. My name, my signature, or what looked like it, sprawled across a stack of papers. My heart thudded in my ears. Mom, Dad, and Colt listed as co-borrowers. Identity theft, fraud, by my own family. I sank into a chair, the room spinning. Outside, the autumn sun glared off the windows I'd installed with my own money. My breath came shallow and fast. Betrayal had a taste, metallic, like blood in your mouth. I called Lindsay back. They forged my signature. Her voice was sharp now. "Do not confront them yet. Gather proof. Every receipt, every transfer, every improvement you paid for. Make copies. We'll figure out next steps." That night, while the house slept, I crept into the attic with a flashlight. Dust swirled in the beam as I opened old boxes. Mortgage statements, contractor invoices, bank transfers, evidence of every sacrifice I'd made. My hands trembled, but I kept digging. In a folder marked Taxes, I found another copy of the loan papers with my signature. I slipped it into my bag, heart pounding. Downstairs, the clock ticked. The smell of cedar from the beams mixed with my own sweat. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning. By 3 a.m., my bag bulged with papers. I returned to my room and locked the door. The house that had once been my sanctuary now felt like an enemy's lair. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching the evidence, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. They thought I'd leave quietly. They thought I'd just disappear. They didn't know me at all. Whitney gathers proof and steels herself for revenge.
The next morning, I woke before dawn, the evidence folder still clutched to my chest. My body ached with exhaustion, but my mind was a storm. Every memory of sacrifice now burned like an accusation. How many times had Dad called me his responsible one, while quietly using my name to line Colt's pockets? How many times had Mom cried with gratitude while signing my life away? I stumbled into the kitchen. The scent of coffee and stale toast hit me like a wall of normalcy. Mom hummed as if nothing had happened. Colt's duffels sat by the door, his city clothes spilling out. He was back to stay. "Morning," Mom chirped without meeting my eyes. "Busy day?" I wanted to scream, but I forced my voice steady. "Yeah, very busy." She turned back to the stove. Her hair, once soft and comforting, now looked like a stranger's. I left without another word, my evidence bag hidden under my arm. Outside, the air was cold and bright. Each step toward my car felt heavier, like walking through water. I met Lindsay at her office on Higgins Avenue. She poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs and closed the door. "Let me see what you've got," she said. I spread the documents on her desk. Invoices, bank transfers, the forged loan agreement. My hands shook, but Lindsay's didn't. She flipped each page carefully, her lawyer's eyes scanning for holes. "This is bad, but also good. You have proof. This is clear identity theft and fraud. We can act." I swallowed hard. What do I do until then? They're kicking me out in less than 48 hours. "First," she said, "document everything you physically bought. Photos, receipts, then get it out of that house. Everything you can prove is yours. Don't confront them yet. Just quietly remove your property. When they realize what you're doing, it'll be too late." The thought of sneaking around my own home made me sick, but I nodded.
Okay. She squeezed my hand. Whit, this is going to be ugly. They'll try to gaslight you, guilt you. Stay calm. This isn't about family anymore. This is about your name, your credit, your future. That night, back at the house, I moved like a ghost. With my phone camera in one hand, I photographed every item. The appliances I'd purchased, the furniture I'd refurnished, the artwork I'd hung. Click, click. Each flash felt like a heartbeat. Down the hall, I could hear Colt laughing on the phone, his voice dripping with arrogance. Yeah, man, I'm taking over the house. It's basically mine now. My stomach clenched. I stepped into my room, shut the door, and leaned against it, breathing hard. My own brother was bragging about my home like a prize he'd won. I texted Lindsay, I don't know if I can keep my cool. She replied instantly, you can. Document, move your things, then we strike. I nodded to myself. The plan was the only thing keeping me upright. The next morning, I rented a storage unit and a moving van. The clerk gave me a sympathetic look as I handed over my credit card. Moving day? He asked. Something like that, I muttered. Back at the house, I began packing my life into boxes. Every dish, every lamp, every nail I'd hammered into the walls, a silent record of my devotion. The smell of cardboard mixed with the citrus cleaner I'd always used on the counters. It felt like erasing myself from my own story. Colt sauntered in around noon, sunglasses on despite the cloudy sky. Wow, you're really going, huh? He said, leaning against the doorframe. I kept my eyes on the box I was taping. Just taking what's mine. He snorted. You sound bitter. Look, you're good at making money. You'll bounce back. I straightened slowly, tape gun in hand. Did you forge my signature on that loan, Colt? For a moment, his smirk faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. I took a step closer. The $60,000 home equity loan, my name's on it. I never signed it. He glanced away, jaw tightening. Mom and Dad handled the paperwork. Don't drag me into this. Rage boiled in my chest, but I forced myself to smile coldly. I'm sure a judge will be very interested to hear that. His eyes snapped back to mine, suddenly nervous. What are you planning? I turned away, heart hammering. You'll see. I left him standing in the hall as I loaded another box into the van. That night, I barely slept. My body buzzed with adrenaline, my mind replaying every interaction, every lie. The house creaked under my weight as I paced. I felt like a stranger in a museum of my own life. In the morning, I returned to the attic for one last sweep. That's when I found the old photo albums. Me and Colt as kids, birthdays and Christmases. I flipped through them, my throat tight. How had we gone from that to this? But then I remembered the forged signature, the smugness at the dinner table. Compassion hardened into resolution. I tucked the albums into my bag. Evidence or not, they were mine. By the end of the second day, the house looked hollow. The appliances were gone, the rooms stripped of warmth. Mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Whitney, what are you doing? You're making a scene. I stared at her. I'm taking what I paid for. I'm not leaving empty-handed. You're being dramatic. This isn't necessary. Forging my name on a loan wasn't necessary either, I snapped. Her face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Then you won't mind if I show the bank the papers. For a moment, silence hung between us like a noose. Then she turned away, muttering, do what you have to do. I loaded the last box into the van and shut the door. My hands were shaking, but my spine felt straighter than it had in months. As I drove away, the house receded in the rearview mirror. The porch, the windows, the ghosts of my sacrifices. My heart ached, but underneath the grief, a new feeling stirred. Anticipation. They thought they'd written the ending to my story. They were wrong. Whitney leaves with her belongings and prepares for legal action. The storage unit smelled of dust and freedom. Row after row of my boxes lined the concrete walls like soldiers waiting for orders. I stood in the middle of them, arms wrapped around myself. For the first time in years, everything I owned was in one place, untouched by my family's betrayal. But relief was only a thin film over a deeper, gnawing rage. My credit was tied up in a fraudulent loan. My name had been dragged into debt I hadn't agreed to. If I didn't act, the bank would come after me, not them. I pulled out my phone and called Lindsay. "It's done," I said. "Everything's out." Her voice was crisp. "Good. Now we head back." That afternoon in her office, we laid out the plan like a battle map. Lindsay's paralegal spread the documents across the table, each one a weapon. Forged signatures, proof of my payments, photos of the house before and after my renovations. "Step 1, Lindsay said, "file a police report for identity theft and fraud. Step 2, notify the bank formally that the signature is forged. Step 3, file a civil lawsuit for damages and to void the loan. Step 4, get a restraining order if they harass you." I swallowed. "That's a lot." "It's necessary. They counted on you being too scared or too loyal to fight back. We're gonna prove them wrong." Her confidence steadied me. "Okay, let's do it." The next days blurred into a rhythm of action. Police station, bank, courthouse. I filled out forms until my hand cramped. I gave statements, swore oaths, handed over evidence. Each signature I scrawled felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. At night in my small rental apartment, I lay awake, exhaustion buzzing under my skin. Memories surfaced. Dad teaching me to ride a bike. Mom braiding my hair. How could those same hands have signed my name without consent? Anger would rise like a tide, then ebb into sorrow. But underneath both was a growing steeliness. They had underestimated me all my life. They were about to learn who I really was. One evening, while sorting through receipts, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I answered cautiously. "You think you're clever," Colt's voice sneered, "dragging our family name through the mud?" My heart skipped, but I kept my tone icy. "You forged my name on a loan, Colt. That's a crime. You'll regret this. You're nothing without us." I hung up, hands trembling. Then I hit record on a voice memo and saved the call. Evidence. Minutes later, a text from Lindsay. "If he contacts you again, forward it to me. Don't engage." I exhaled slowly. This was more than a family squabble now. This was war. Days passed. The bank's fraud department confirmed what I already knew. The signature wasn't mine. They froze the account pending investigation. The police opened a case file. Lindsay filed the lawsuit. We requested discovery, bank statements, loan applications, communications. Piece by piece, the paper trail tightened around my parents and Colt like a noose. Meanwhile, rumors swirled around town. Neighbors had seen me hauling furniture out. People whispered about the lawsuit. Some sided with my parents, calling me ungrateful. Others quietly reached out with support. Henry, the elderly man next door, even offered to testify. He said, "I saw you pay for everything. You're the only reason that house is standing." His words were a balm. "Thank you," I murmured. One night, I drove past the old farmhouse. Lights blazed in every window. Through the sheer curtains, I could see Colt lounging on the sofa, drink in hand, like a king in someone else's castle. A pang of grief stabbed me, but it only hardened my resolve. I rolled down the window, letting the cold night air sting my cheeks, and whispered to myself, "Not for long." The weeks leading up to the hearing were a blur of depositions and strategy meetings. Lindsay coached me on how to testify. Stay calm, stick to facts, don't let their lawyer bait you. At home, I rehearsed answers in the mirror. My reflection stared back, pale but fierce. Yes, I paid the mortgage. Yes, I purchased the appliances. No, I did not sign that loan. Sometimes at night, I dream of the house, walls closing in, my name scrawled in someone else's handwriting across every surface. I'd wake up gasping, but then remember, the trap was theirs now, not mine. 2 days before the first court date, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. Inside was a hastily scribbled note from Mom. "Please drop the case. We'll make it right. Don't destroy this family." My hands shook as I read it. A part of me longed to believe her, but then I pictured the smugness at the dinner table, the forged signature, the sleepless nights. They weren't apologizing. They were afraid. I tucked the letter into my evidence folder. Proof of guilt. On the morning of the hearing, the courthouse smelled of old wood and disinfectant. Sunlight streamed through high windows, dust motes dancing in the beams. I sat at the plaintiff's table with Lindsay, my heart pounding so loud I thought the judge could hear it. Across the aisle, Mom and Dad looked shrunken, eyes darting anywhere but at me. Colt sat between them, jaw tight, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. The bailiff called the case. My name, their names. Identity theft, fraud. My pulse thundered. This was it. Lindsay rose smoothly, her voice clear and commanding. She laid out the evidence: bank records, forged signatures, receipts, photos, even the voice recording of Colt's threat. Each exhibit was a nail in their coffin. I watched the judge's face, impassive but attentive. With every document Lindsay displayed, my breathing steadied. This wasn't a family drama anymore. This was justice. When it was my turn to testify, I stood, knees trembling, and raised my right hand. My voice shook at first, but grew stronger with each answer. I told my story: the sacrifices, the betrayal, the discovery. The courtroom was silent except for my words. When their lawyer tried to paint me as an ungrateful daughter, Lindsay objected sharply and the judge sustained. A flicker of satisfaction warmed me. By the end of the day, the evidence was overwhelming. The judge ordered the loan frozen and scheduled a full trial for damages. He even issued a temporary injunction preventing them from selling or encumbering the property. As we left the courtroom, Lindsay squeezed my shoulder. "They're on the ropes. Don't let up." I nodded, adrenaline still coursing through me. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. That night, back in my apartment, I stared at the city lights through the window. My body was exhausted, but my mind hummed with a quiet triumph. The tide had turned. The plan was working. In the silence, I whispered to myself, they thought I'd be their victim. They were wrong.
The morning of the trial dawned cold and sharp, the kind of Montana morning that makes your breath come out in clouds. I stood outside the courthouse steps with Lindsay, clutching a thermos of coffee. My hands still trembled, but it was no longer fear. It was anticipation. Months of gathering evidence, sleepless nights, and whispered strategy had all led here. Inside, the courtroom was hushed. Wooden benches, high windows, the faint scent of polish. Mom and Dad sat at the defense table looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. Colt slouched beside them, his confidence gone. His tie sat crooked, his jaw clenched. Lindsay leaned toward me. Today, we're not just proving the forgery. We're asking for damages, legal fees, and for the loan to be voided. We're also asking the judge to order the sale of the property to cover what they owe. This is the hammer drop. I nodded, my heart thudding. Let's finish this. The trial lasted 2 full days. Lindsay moved with the precision of a surgeon. She called bank officials who testified the signature wasn't mine. She produced handwriting experts who compared my actual signature to the forged one. She walked the judge through every receipt, every photo, every email. When she played the voice recording of Colt threatening me, the room went utterly silent. The judge's brow furrowed. Mom put her head in her hands. Colt shifted in his seat, his face ashen. Then it was my turn. I told my story in full. Not just the facts, but the impact. How my credit was damaged, how I had to pack up my life in 2 days, how the people I loved had taken advantage of me. My voice cracked once, but I didn't stop. I did everything for that house, I said quietly. And in return, they forged my name. They tried to erase me.
For a moment, even the defense lawyer looked uncomfortable. On the third day, the judge delivered his decision. His voice was calm but firm, echoing through the chamber. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff. The loan in question is hereby voided. The defendants are ordered to repay the bank and to pay the plaintiff $60,000 in damages plus legal fees. The property is to be sold to cover the outstanding debt. The plaintiff's credit is to be cleared immediately. I closed my eyes. Relief flooded through me so quickly I swayed. Lindsay gripped my arm, steadying me. Across the aisle, Colt's mouth fell open. Mom gasped. Dad stared at the floor. It was over. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the principle. They could no longer pretend I was weak. They could no longer use my name to clean up their messes. Outside the courthouse, the autumn air felt like a baptism. Reporters snapped photos. A few neighbors had gathered, whispering. Henry, my elderly neighbor, stepped forward and clasped my hand. "You did it," he said simply. I smiled, a tremor of tears threatening. I did. That night in my apartment, I unpacked one of the last boxes from storage. Inside were the photo albums from the attic. I flipped through them slowly. Me and Colt as kids, birthdays, Christmases. My throat tightened. This was the family I had loved, the one I had saved. But those people no longer existed. I closed the album and set it aside. Some chapters aren't meant to be reopened. The house sold quickly. The bank took its share, and the rest went to pay the judgment. My parents and Colt moved into a small rental on the other side of town. Word spread fast. People whispered in grocery store aisles, in church pews. Some called me cold, others called me brave. I didn't care anymore. I had my life back. With the damages, I paid off my debts, boosted my business, and found a sunny apartment downtown. I filled it with the furniture I'd rescued from the old house. For the first time, everything around me felt truly mine. Weeks later, an email arrived from Mom. It was short. "We're sorry. We didn't think it would go this far. We hope someday you can forgive us." I stared at it for a long time. My heart ached, but the anger had cooled to something steadier. Boundaries. I typed back, "I wish you the best, but I won't allow anyone, family or not, to exploit me again." Then I hit send and closed the laptop. One evening, standing on my balcony as the sun set over the mountains, I felt something shift inside me. Not triumph exactly, not even relief, just clarity. All my life, I believed loyalty meant sacrificing myself for the people I loved. Now I knew better. Loyalty without respect is just servitude. I took a deep breath, the air crisp and clean. Below, the city glimmered, alive with possibility. I thought they'd break. Instead, I built a life without them. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, you know the wound goes deeper than money. But standing up for yourself, even when it means standing alone, is the only way to heal. My revenge wasn't about destroying them. It was about reclaiming myself. Now, every time I walk into my own apartment, every time a client thanks me for my work, I remember that night at the dinner table. I remember how small I felt. And I remember that I didn't stay small. Because even family has no right to your name, your labor, or your life. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever fought back when someone tried to take what was yours, hit like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments. This channel is about justice, resilience, and the power of standing up for yourself. You're not alone.